So, on February 17th, 2026, there was this big headline about India and France upgrading their relationship. And look, at first glance, it might have sounded like just more standard diplomatic talk, right? But what's actually happening here is a really significant shift in global alliances. This goes way beyond a simple handshake. So let's unpack what this special partnership is truly all about. And what leaders from both countries kept saying was, this isn't something that just happened overnight. This is a result of decades spent building trust. President Macron's quote really hits the nail on the head. It's not just about shared interests, it's about a shared ambition. And that foundation of trust, it's absolutely crucial because it's what's allowing them to make the really big moves we're about to get into. The official name they're giving this is a Special Global Strategic Partnership. Yeah, I know it sounds like a bit of a mouthful. But what it really boils down to is a game plan for the next few decades. It's all about helping each other stay independent, maintaining their sovereignty and the freedom to make their own calls, while also teaming up to tackle the huge problems the world's facing. Okay, so let's get past the official language. What does this partnership actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at the actual pillars that are holding this whole thing up. So the first, and you could argue the most critical pillar here, is all about defense and technology. And specifically, it all centers on one of the most complex, most difficult pieces of military hardware to create, a jet fighter engine. For India, this has been a quest that's been going on for nearly 40 years. To really get why this deal is such a massive deal, you have to look at the history. India has been trying to build its own advanced fighter engine since way back in 1986 with its Kaveri program, but it is an incredibly difficult challenge. So this partnership with France's Safran isn't about just buying an engine off the shelf. No, it's about finally achieving what India calls strategic autonomy, having the power to control its own defense future. And that's the crucial difference here. In a normal arms deal, a country buys the finished product, right? They're basically just a customer, always dependent on the supplier for parts, for upgrades. But the French offer here is totally different. This involves a deep transfer of core technology. We're talking the blueprints, the know-how. It's basically an offer for India to become a peer, not just another customer. And when you dig into the specifics, you see just how deep this really goes. I mean, it's a 6.7 billion euro deal, all aimed at powering India's next-generation stealth fighter. But the real story isn't the price tag. It's the transfer of incredibly sensitive technology, stuff like specialized metallurgy and laser drilling techniques for the engine's core. This is the kind of know-how that nations almost never share. But hold on. This partnership isn't just about military hardware. It's also built on an equally massive economic foundation. And it's all anchored by a trade agreement so big that the media has been calling it the mother of all deals. When you see a quote like that repeated across major global news outlets from The Telegraph to the BBC, you know something huge just happened. And what they're talking about is the recently concluded free trade agreement between India and the European Union, an agreement that France really championed. And this FTA is a total game changer. Just think about the scale of it. It creates a single trade zone for almost 2 billion people. That covers nearly a quarter of the world's entire economy. For businesses on both sides, this means that the barriers to trade are about to come crashing down. And to see what this looks like in the real world, just take European cars sold in India. The import tariff was over 100%, 110 to be exact. The new FTA? It's going to drop that to as low as 10%. I mean, that one change alone is enough to completely reshape India's entire car market. And the economic partnership goes way beyond just cutting tariffs. We're seeing joint manufacturing, where Tata and Airbus are going to build helicopters in India. We're seeing India's UPI digital payment system, which is huge, now being active in France. And there are new agreements on things like taxes and big infrastructure projects like high-speed rail. It is a deep, multi-layered economic integration. So, with defense and the economy locked in, what's the long-term plan? Where is this all heading? Well, that's where something called the Horizon 2047 roadmap comes in. It's basically the playbook for the next couple of decades, leading right up to the 100th anniversary of their diplomatic relations. And the roadmap is actually pretty straightforward. It's structured around 3 core pillars. First, to keep deepening that security and defense partnership we just talked about. Second, to tackle global challenges like the environment and energy together. And third, to strengthen the ties between the actual people of both nations. And when you look inside these pillars, the ambitions are just huge. We're talking about joint research centers for AI and space, collaboration on next-generation civil nuclear power, leading global climate initiatives together. And then, on the human side of things, opening new cultural centers and aiming to triple the number of Indian students studying in France by 2030. So we have defense, we have economics, and we have this long-term vision. When you put all of these pieces together, it raises a really, really important question. What's the global significance of all this? Why does this partnership matter beyond just India and France? So let's step back for a second. What does all of this really add up to on the world stage? Let's start with just this number, 6. If this jet engine program actually succeeds, India will become only the 6th country in the entire world capable of designing and building a modern fighter engine from scratch. That is an incredibly exclusive club, and getting into it fundamentally changes India's position as a global military power. But it's even bigger than that. This partnership offers a potential new model for what people often call middle powers. You know, in a world that seems increasingly defined by the rivalry between Washington and Beijing, a lot of countries are looking for a way to maintain their strategic autonomy, to avoid having to pick a side. This partnership, built on co-development and mutual respect, could be the template for how to do just that. And that leaves us with a final, fascinating question. Is this special global strategic partnership the beginning of something much larger? Are we actually watching the formation of a new, independent axis in global politics? One that wants to chart its own course, totally distinct from the paths laid out by the traditional superpowers? Now that is something to think about.